Deep in the world's remote wilderness, something unknown watches, studies, and moves with calculated precision, leaving behind shattered camps and traces that seem impossible to explain. From a frozen northern forest, where a group of men were overwhelmed in minutes by an unseen force, to a quiet mountain range where a lone traveler sensed a massive presence tracking his every step. In this video, we're telling 6 stories of terrifying encounters where fear dominates and answers remain out of reach. On December 4th, 2025, deep in a remote northern forest, 8 expedition members from isolated settlements set up camp beneath a dense canopy of snow-covered spruce and pine trees, their breath visible in the freezing air as they worked to secure their tents on uneven, hardened ground. Among them were Viktor Semyonov, an experienced tracker known for interpreting subtle terrain disturbances, his face worn and hands hardened from years of exposure. Alexei Morozov, a calm and disciplined marksman who held his rifle with steady control, scanning the tree line for any unusual movement. And Katerina Volnova, a field researcher documenting winter environmental patterns, her notes protected inside sealed cases and her tools prepared for detailed observation. The group had traveled nearly 11 kilometers from the nearest ranger outpost, each step pressing deeply into the silent snow, carrying equipment heavy enough to strain their endurance, and they settled into a narrow clearing, surrounded by tall trees that blocked most of the natural light. By late evening, a sharp wind moved through the camp, rattling the tent fabric and sending fine frost drifting through the air. The group gathered around a small fire, its glow faint against the surrounding darkness, and checked their equipment, unaware that something beyond their awareness had been observing them for an extended period. At first, the sounds were subtle, a distant crack that carried more weight than a natural break, a slow scraping along wood that seemed out of place, but gradually they became more frequent. Around midnight, the silence was broken completely. Heavy impacts echoed through the clearing, the sound of significant weight shifting through the forest, followed by controlled breaks of branches and a harsh dragging noise that forced the group into sudden alertness. 2 members of the group, Pavel Orlov, 33, and Elena Kuznetsova, 27, both experienced in harsh conditions, reacted immediately. Without hesitation, they abandoned their shelter and equipment, moving barefoot into the deep snow toward the distant direction of the ranger outpost. Their movements were unsteady, their breathing rapid as they forced themselves forward through the freezing terrain, leaving behind a trail marked by disturbed snow and signs of injury where skin met ice. Between strained breaths, they caught sight of a tall figure moving upright between the trees, its massive outline blending into the darkness as it advanced with controlled, effortless motion. Its form was humanoid but far beyond normal proportions, its stride long and steady, covering ground with unnatural efficiency. At moments it paused, shifting slightly as if observing, before continuing forward and disappearing into the forest, leaving only silence behind. When the response team arrived hours later, they encountered a scene that could not be explained through known natural causes. 6 individuals were found across the clearing, some near partially collapsed tents, others closer to the remains of the fire, their bodies showing signs of severe impact injuries and deep trauma consistent with extreme force, yet without any indication of animal feeding behavior. The surrounding snow revealed a series of large barefoot impressions, each deeply embedded and measuring far beyond human proportions, with a structure that suggested balanced, upright movement. The prints circled the camp in deliberate patterns, moving between equipment and supplies without disturbing them unnecessarily, indicating control, awareness, and purposeful navigation. Nearby objects had been shifted, logs repositioned, equipment moved slightly, forming irregular but intentional arrangements rather than random destruction. The response team noted that trees surrounding the clearing showed signs of pressure at unusual heights, with bark stripped or compressed in long vertical sections, suggesting force applied from above normal human reach. No animal tracks were found entering or leaving the area beyond the perimeter, except for the large impressions, which ended abruptly without continuation, giving the impression that whatever created them had moved without leaving a trace. Known wildlife in the region remained absent from the immediate vicinity, as if avoiding the area entirely. The clearing itself reflected an event that combined overwhelming force with controlled, deliberate movement, leaving investigators without a clear explanation. Forensic examination later confirmed that the incident occurred within a short time frame. The injuries indicated repeated high-impact force applied rapidly, with little opportunity for resistance. Evidence suggested the victims had attempted to move toward shelter or regroup, but the arrangement of their positions indicated they had been intercepted and struck with precision. Snow samples revealed coarse, dark fibers that did not match known species, resistant to the extreme conditions, supporting the accounts provided by the survivors. Despite the severity of the scene, no tools were involved, and no additional tracks were found, leaving the event inconsistent with any documented wildlife behavior. Viktor Semyonov, Alexei Morozov, and Katerina Volnova were among those who did not survive, their positions suggesting that experience and preparation had no effect against what they encountered. The movement of the entity had been controlled, avoiding direct confrontation while maintaining dominance over the environment. Equipment that might have been scattered in panic remained partially organized, suggesting interaction rather than chaos. The survivors' accounts, combined with physical evidence, described a single, large, upright, moving presence capable of extreme strength and rapid, decisive action, entering the camp, eliminating multiple individuals within minutes, and leaving without a trace. The incident created lasting unease in nearby settlements. Authorities restricted access to the region, though official explanations remained vague, avoiding reference to any unknown cause. Pavel and Elena remained the only witnesses, describing a presence that moved silently, observed carefully, and acted with deliberate intent. They spoke of its height, its stillness, and the sense that it had been aware of them long before they noticed anything unusual. In the months that followed, no known predators were recorded in the area, reinforcing the uncertainty surrounding the event. The forest eventually returned to stillness. Snowfall covered the remaining traces, wind reshaped the terrain, and the clearing faded back into the surrounding wilderness, leaving behind only uncertainty and unresolved questions. For those connected to the incident, the memory remained a reminder that in the most remote regions, there are moments where human understanding fails, and something far larger and more controlled moves, just beyond perception, capable of acting with precision and disappearing without explanation. On October 3, 2024, Luca Bianchi, 31, ventured alone into a remote karst cave system hidden within the rugged mountains of southern Switzerland, carrying only a headlamp, climbing equipment, and a compact pack filled with supplies for a single day of exploration. The morning was cold and still, with sharp peaks dusted in early frost, and Luca's boots shifted against loose gravel as he approached the narrow cave entrance concealed behind a thick cluster of alpine shrubs. He had years of experience navigating underground systems, skilled in reading rock stability and mapping tight passages, yet even he felt a quiet tension in the stillness surrounding the entrance, as though the silence itself carried weight. By early afternoon, he had descended deep into the cave network, maintaining brief radio contact with a local exploration group, reporting that he had come across unusual impressions pressed into the damp soil near one of the main corridors. He described them as resembling human footprints but significantly larger, with an unnatural width and depth. The toes spread wide and clearly defined in the soft ground. After that transmission, all communication ceased. Concerned by the sudden silence, members of his group attempted repeated contact, but no response came. As daylight began to fade, a small search team assembled and made their way up the steep trails toward the cave, carrying ropes, portable lighting, and emergency equipment, aware that temperatures in the mountains could drop rapidly after sunset, and that time was critical. They reached the cave entrance shortly before nightfall, and their initial observation was that everything appeared strangely undisturbed. Luca's headlamp rested carefully on a flat stone, switched off but positioned upright. His climbing rope neatly coiled beside it, and his pack secured and zipped, placed deliberately against the cave wall. His equipment showed no signs of haste or struggle. Instead, it appeared arranged with unusual care, every item aligned as though intentionally organized after being used. Inside the cave, the damp ground revealed a sequence of large footprints leading deeper into the passage. Each impression was deeply pressed into the soil, far exceeding normal human size, with spacing that suggested long, controlled stride. The prints continued into a narrowing corridor where the ceiling dipped low, forcing anyone entering to crouch. At that point, the tracks abruptly stopped, ending without continuation, leaving only smooth, undisturbed ground ahead. Nearby, fragments of broken rock formations had been placed along the edges of the passage in deliberate arrangements, forming rough symmetrical patterns that appeared too precise to be accidental. The positioning suggested intent. Something had interacted with the environment in a controlled and purposeful manner, rather than causing random damage while moving through the confined space. A faint, unfamiliar scent lingered in the air, subtle but noticeable, unlike the usual mineral dampness of underground spaces. Small stones near the entrance to the corridor had been shifted into loose circular formations, arranged with a level of consistency that drew attention. The search team paused, examining the patterns, unable to determine whether any known process could account for such placement without deliberate action. Despite careful inspection of the surrounding area, no additional clues were found, no dropped tools, no secondary footprints, and no indication that Luca had exited through an alternate route. The absence of disturbance, combined with the precise arrangement of his belongings and the manipulated cave features, suggested that his disappearance had not been accidental, but the result of an encounter involving both strength and awareness. Throughout the night, the team moved deeper into the cave system, illuminating narrow tunnels and branching paths with their headlamps, calling Luca's name and marking their routes carefully. The acoustics within the cave amplified every sound, creating echoes that distorted distance and direction, adding to the unease. They documented the footprints, measured their dimensions, and examined every accessible passage, but found no evidence explaining what had occurred. The environment itself posed risks: unstable rock, hidden crevices, and sudden drops, but none aligned with the controlled nature of the scene near the entrance. His equipment remained untouched, prepared rather than abandoned, reinforcing the sense that whatever happened had occurred quickly and without chaos. By the following day, additional teams arrived with advanced equipment, including thermal scanners and mapping drones adapted for underground use, yet no trace of Luca was discovered. The footprints did not reappear beyond the narrowing corridor, and the arranged stones and broken formations remained exactly as they had been found. Wildlife experts were consulted, but no known species in the region could produce such large, structured footprints while simultaneously altering the environment in deliberate patterns. Common alpine animals lacked both the size and the behavioral complexity to account for the evidence. Speculation remained unofficial, shared quietly among those involved in the search. The possibility of an unknown, large, upright moving presence was considered, something capable of navigating confined spaces while exerting significant control over its surroundings. The arrangement of Luca's gear suggested observation, and the absence of struggle implied that he had been removed swiftly and silently. Follow-up searches continued for weeks, but no additional signs emerged. No equipment, no remains, and no continuation of the tracks beyond their initial path. Luca Bianchi was never found, and the events of October 3rd, 2024 left a lasting impact on the local exploration community. Those who later entered the cave reported an unshakable sense of awareness within the confined passages, as though something unseen lingered beyond the limits of light. The cave remains accessible, but few choose to venture deep within. The disappearance serves as a reminder that even in environments studied and explored for decades, there are still moments where control is lost, And something unknown operates just beyond human understanding, capable of observing, acting, and vanishing without leaving an answer behind.